The choices that they have to do now can be very, very painful.
Well, Juan, welcome to the studio. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to have a little bit of a Lat Am themed discussion. If we start things off, there seems to be a general feeling that Brazil has actually brought most of these problems on themselves. Is that the kind of how you would describe the situation at present?
Well, yes and no. Of course, there have been internal factors that have played against Brazilian economy today, but there are also external factors that have actually had an impact on the whole region. I mean, we have the effects in terms of inflation, we have the effects in terms of public finances. So perhaps this is one of the weaknesses that has been identified among Brazilians and the Brazilian government, the fact that it could not manage to have a sustainable fiscal policy path in order to have to be ready when the business cycle was going to change. And that, of course, many Brazilians think that that's the government fault. And now the question is how the government can react, because of course its political position now it's rather weak, and the choices that they have to do now can be very, very painful.
Indeed. Now, you mentioned obviously the government and the commodity, right? If we think about Venezuela for a moment, they've really sunk again deeper into economical and political crisis. The price of crude remains in free fall. And on the other side, the National Assembly suspended its session after the Supreme Court declared it null and void. For example, American Airlines has just written off nearly $600 million that they have essentially trapped in Venezuela. They've just written it off. I mean, it does seem a bit of a mess here, isn't it?
Yes, you can definitively say so. It's kind of a mess in terms of political uncertainty. But on the other hand, you can say, okay, there is also something moving here. On the one hand, they could buy the support through the oil boom that was there in the last 10 years, and now that the things have changed with the price of oil that is falling. Of course, the public finances have deteriorated. Now inflation is going up. The government had to introduce capital controls, and now we will see. I mean, the government just announced that they would introduce this emergency economic program, and we will see what they are planning to do.
Now, perhaps this is a good example of why we need to really improve the debt restructuring program, do you think?
Absolutely. So on the one hand, this is a problem that goes beyond the regional problem. I mean, what happens with Argentina is definitely going to have an impact on other borrowing countries, on borrowing governments. There is one thing, and that's something that has to be recalled. Argentina had lots of problems to repay its debt already by the end of the 1990s and beginning of the 2000s. I mean, the country really tried to continue to repay its debt. Then the default was very costly. It had a lot of social and economic impacts on Argentina. But then again, the positive part of the recovery was the fact that there was this upwards part of the business cycle. And so during about 10 years, commodity exports and commodity prices were up, and that kind of dissimulated many of the weaknesses that remained in Argentina during all these years. So now with the subprime crisis and then the down part of the business cycle, what we see is really these challenges that the Argentinian economy faced at some moment had to be faced. And one of these is the fact that they really never came up with a permanent solution and regarding its debt resolution. And then we have this holdout problem, which actually keep Argentina away from the capital markets. So the government cannot go. So capital controls are being removed. So there was a kind of a devaluation of the peso, which was relatively controlled. This devaluation should have a boosting effect on the exports of the economy, so that may help. But again, there is a strong deficit, a fiscal deficit. The reserves of the central banks are at very low levels, and so at the moment they have to arrange this problem. The time is going out, so they really have to move fast. And again, the question is, how are they going to solve these kind of issues, and how they do it? That would definitely have consequences on how sovereign debt markets work.
Indeed. Well, I mean, we could talk about all of these topics at length, but thank you so much for coming in and sharing your insight with us today, Juan. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, that's all from Juan and myself for the moment, but there's plenty more on Dukascopy TV right now, so make sure you keep clicking back. Goodbye for now.